Welcome back to another segment of the MCR. My name's TJ. Please like, share, and subscribe. We're on multiple platforms: YouTube, BitChute, Rumble. We're on Wimkin, Truth Social, and perhaps another couple ones I don't recall offhand. In this segment, I'd like to continue beating a drum that I've been beating this whole week. This past Monday, I made reference that it's my belief that this country has stooped to such a low level of depravity that this country has lost its soul. And on Wednesday, I shared that while the Democrats, realize it or not, they have adopted tenets of Machiavellianism. And what I mean by that is might makes right. The end justifies the means. Don't let a crisis go to waste. And to even include, it's better to be feared than loved. Machiavelli wrote something else, which I'm going to share my thoughts on in this segment. Machiavelli also wrote, "The Swiss are well armed and very free." A couple years ago, we were talking about, I say we, MCR here, was talking about the Second Amendment and how it is the only amendment that states within it the necessity for its existence. And in an effort to explain what I mean here, I will read the Second Amendment at this time. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Center part reads again, being necessary to the security of a free state. That's why we have the Second Amendment. Just last week, President Brandon said some pretty obscene things, which I'm compelled to reference. When he addressed the nation, he said, "I respect the culture and the tradition and the concerns of lawful gun owners. At the same time, the Second Amendment, like all other rights, is not absolute." I'm going to read that again. At the same time, the Second Amendment, like all other rights, is not absolute. So the necessity of a free state is not absolute. He would also further ramble on that he didn't feel people ought to own 9mm handguns. And I'd like to share some of my thoughts in retort to this nonsense. I'll preface it with, not everyone is of the same financial means or abilities or has the same financial resources or training. Each person will need to decide what is best for their situation. Nevertheless, preparation is needed. We here at the MCR, we're not a gun channel. Mac and I don't have the latest and greatest gadgetry. If anyone, Mr. Thirsty, who occasionally sits in with us, Mr. Thirsty might have more of the current gadgetry than Mac and me. None of us are Navy SEALs. Never have been, never will be. But we do, and especially in my case, have a pretty thorough understanding of the various calibers, their ballistics, their muzzle energies and velocities, their performance, their trajectories. At the risk of tooting my own horn, my last military qualification I hit 38 out of 40 pop-up targets ranging out to 300 meters. That ain't bad. My current concern is this, that the U.S. government may actually try at some point to prevent or limit, make it hard as all get out, for civilians to obtain ammunition of what they deem to be military calibers. And when I say military calibers, I mean 9mm for the handgun, 5.56, which is what the current M4 or M16 platform, 5.56 is what it shoots. Plus you have 308 that is deemed a military caliber also. 9mm is the cheapest caliber to shoot, other than 22 long rifle. Aside from 22 long rifle, 9mm will be the next cheapest caliber to shoot. It is my suggestion that if you're able, you may want to add to your collection a firearm of non-military caliber, meaning a 40 or a 45, because 45 is no longer technically a military caliber, but a 40, a 45, 38, or a 357. Especially add a revolver to your collection in the event that they go balls to the wall on the whole semi-auto handgun thing. But these calibers are more expensive. And to give you an idea of how expensive these calibers are almost as expensive as rifle ammunition, especially the 38s. But 3 boxes of 9mm, the cost of 3 boxes of 9mm is basically the equivalent of, say, 2 boxes of 40, 45, 38 for sure. So just know that these calibers are going to be more expensive to shoot. In regards to an AR, make sure it's a 5.56, but a 5.56mm AR can shoot the civilian ammunition of 223. There are some very minor differences between the two calibers. For those interested in what those differences are, it is my understanding that the AR chambered in 5.56, the head spacing is slightly different than that of a 223. And basically, if you have a 5.56, you can shoot a 223, but if you have a 223, avoid shooting the 5.56 in it. Okay? That's what the whole head spacing thing's about. Also, the primer crimp on 5.56 is different than, say, the primer on the 223, and they did that in an effort to make the ammunition more water resistant, water and moisture resistant. Okay? Other than that, ballistically, they perform near identical. If you had one AR with a 223 going up against another AR with 5.56, the 5.56 does not in any way outperform the 223, but rather, at the end of the day, it's going to be the training and abilities of each shooter. Okay, so having a AR with 223 ammunition, you are not at a disadvantage. Okay. Back in the 1990s, I bought a Winchester Model 70 30-06, and back then there was talk of limiting military calibers to civilians. And I thought, well, heck, if I get a bolt action, it might as well be a 30-06, because a 30-06 ballistically is extremely similar to that of a 308. Okay? So I opted for a 30-06 over a 308 back in the mid-1990s. I saw one guy do a YouTube video. He had an AR, but he also suggested buying a Mini 14, since the Mini 14 doesn't look as sinister as the evil and wicked looking AR. Problem is, you don't have the ability to accessorize the Mini 14 like you do the AR. And at the end of the day, I do feel the AR probably performs better than the Mini 14. But again, it's going to depend on the shooter. These are just some of my thoughts. Given the current financial situation of the economy, not everyone may have the abilities to do what I've suggested here, or they may feel something else is better suited for them. Hey, you know what? It's a free country so far. I watched one YouTube guy. He made the case for buying a $700 AR, a $300 optic, and $1,000 worth of ammunition. He made the case of buying that instead of a $2,000 AR. He referenced how he knew guys who bought a $2,000 AR, really didn't do nothing else with it, didn't even really practice with it, and it was his opinion that they ultimately ended up with a very expensive paperweight. I found that guy's video interesting. Main thing is, whatever you can afford, you need to practice and train with it. A long time ago, I took a Dale Carnegie course, and they had an interesting take on a statement that we've all heard. There's the phrase, practice makes perfect. But what my Dale Carnegie teacher said was, practice does not make perfect, practice makes permanent. Perfect practice makes perfect. I'll say that again. Perfect practice makes perfect. With the cost of ammunition nowadays, you may not be able to go to the gun ranges as much as you'd like. And a lot of instructors and trainers favor what they call dry firing, okay? And that is the firearm is empty, unloaded, in a safe condition, and then you commence to dry fire it in an effort to master the trigger squeeze. Perfect practice will make perfect. The perfect trigger pull will help in making the perfect shot. Of course, there's other contributing factors, breathing and aiming and that kind of stuff. But ultimately, you've got to have that perfect trigger squeeze. Okay? Back in the 1990s, Mac heard me beat this drum time and time and time again. That is, the Democrats are out to destroy me, and the Republicans are content to look the other way. Trump's presidency has exposed that more than ever. Another one of my concerns is if you're late to the party, you're behind the curve, do your best to catch up. Better late than never. And that's going to be a wrap. These are just my thoughts. This video was longer than I intended it to be. Hope you hung tough. These are just my thoughts. And feel free to share with me any disagreement or something that you would like to contribute to these efforts, by all means. And I'll catch you in the next segment. Hopefully in a couple weeks, Mac and I can get back together for some group segments. But that's a wrap. As always, be safe, watch your six, and don't tread on me.